Hello, I'm Candy Duncan. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters for the Lewisburg area. And on behalf of that league, I'd like to welcome the candidates, the members, our friends, and the community to the second candidates night being held in preparation for the May 18th primary. We will begin this evening's event, as we do all of our meetings, with the reading of the league's nonpartisan statement. The League of Women Voters of the Lewisburg area is nonpartisan, meaning it neither endorses nor opposes a political party or candidate for political office. The choice made in 1920 by the National League to neither support nor oppose any political party or candidate for public office continues today to ensure that the League's voice is heard above the tumult of party politics. Nonpartisanship towards candidates and political parties is critical to the effectiveness of the League's unique voter service and citizen information work. In keeping with the League's goal of voter education and civil discourse, we provide forums to encourage thoughtful consideration of important and timely topics. The League values the differing viewpoints held by all attendees at these events. We request your cooperation in providing an atmosphere for listening and respectful discussion. We ask that you abide by and respect this nonpartisan policy in your words and actions. Now, I would like to introduce our moderator, Janice Bigelow. Janice?
Thank you, Candy. Good evening. My name is Janice Bigelow, and I'm the moderator this evening, as Candy mentioned. The League sponsors nonpartisan candidates nights to help voters become better informed about the candidates running for contested positions. One of the goals of tonight's event is to create an atmosphere that is a comfortable forum for the candidates to answer questions from the League and the audience. This event is an opportunity for citizens to be educated about the candidates and their positions. We therefore ask the candidates that they focus on the issues and ideas that distinguish them from the other candidates on the panel, and that they maintain a civil and non-inflammatory response to questions. Tonight's event will be recorded from start to finish. Within the next few days, the complete and unedited recording of this event will be published on YouTube. Links to this recording will also be available on our League's Facebook page. That's the League of Women Voters, Lewisburg area, or on our website, lwvlewisburgarea.org. At tonight's event, the panelists will be asked questions that were received from people who registered to attend this event, as well as questions prepared in advance by our League's Voter Services Committee. League questions were developed from a variety of sources, including suggestions from League members and online sites such as the school board and League-based sources. League questions were screened using the following criteria. They are relevant to current issues and to the office being considered, and they are carefully phrased to prevent bias and partisanship. Audience questions were screened using the following criteria. They are relevant to all candidates for the office in question, they are comprehensive, and they are not inflammatory or a gratuitous attack on any candidate, and also to avoid duplicate questions being asked. Our panel tonight will consist of candidates for school director from both the Lewisburg Area School District and the Milton Area School District, Region 3. Will the candidates please turn on their video camera and unmute themselves? As we start our evening, a reminder to our audience that school directors are members of a board that sets policy, determines the annual budget, and levies taxes accordingly. They evaluate the superintendent and monitor student achievement. The board focuses on governance, while the superintendent is responsible for the daily operation of the district. Boards meet at least monthly, in addition to committee meetings and executive sessions. There will be 7 candidates on the ballot for the Lewisburg Area School District to fill 4 positions on the board. 5 of those candidates are here tonight. They are Mary Browse, Heather Hanos, Kristen Kraus, Jamie Lyons, and Mary Ann Sigler Stanton. There will be 2 candidates on the ballot for the Milton Area School District Region 3 to fill 1 position on the board. One of those candidates is here tonight. He is Kevin Fry. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, 1 minute for a closing statement, 1 minute to answer questions, and 30 seconds to give a rebuttal response to what another candidate said. And this applies to the Lewisburg candidates only, since there are a number of those candidates here tonight to give a rebuttal. The timer tonight is my husband, Fred Biglow. When there are 30 seconds left to finish an answer, a yellow card will be held up. When time is up, a red card will be held up. At that time, candidates should finish the sentence and stop. When presenting a rebuttal, the candidates will have 30 seconds to speak. A yellow card indicating 15 seconds are left to speak will be held up. When the red card is held up, the candidate should finish the sentence and stop. We ask that all candidates honor the time constraints. We will now begin with our questions. Our first 2 questions come from the league. What motivates you to become a school board member? Or if you are already serving as a school board member, what motivates you to stay on the school board? Ms. Browse?
What motivated me way back in the 90s was I'm a graduate of Lewisburg High School. My husband was, and also my 4 children are. And I was very active in high school in the band and played sports. And I felt at that point, I wanted to give something back to the community and to my school that I graduated from. And through the years, I have come to learn many different education styles. And also my involvement over at SunTech. I represent SunTech as a Lewisburg representative from our board. And I've been over there for many years and I'm president of that school board over there. And I have a vested interest in that community of, for the students to achieve to be productive young adults when they get out of high school, whether it be go on to a 4-year college or post-secondary 2-year program. But the essence is to get them prepared for today's present challenges they have and the future challenges that they will face. I think it's very important that they are prepared both academically, technically, and also career-wise. Career has been becoming a big challenge, not a challenge, but a fact in our education, and that's all very well needed to make a well-blended student. So that is why I've been there, and that's really why I've been continuing to stay on the board, to invest in the kids' futures and to get them prepared with my involvement at SunTech, get well-paying jobs for the students when they get out and they don't have a high college tuition fee to pay back. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes?
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm motivated by just this wonderful community, and I firmly believe that the quality of our local public schools and the students, the success of our students in those schools makes our community a fantastic place to live and draws people from other areas to come and live here. I've had the opportunity to work in other area schools, public schools, as a bilingual aide. And in that role, I got to see sort of day to day what goes on inside a public school and all of the people who make it run. I particularly work directly with EL students, so my perspective is shared with them, and that I was able to see some of the challenges that they face when they take on learning in a non-native language. And I also worked collaboratively with them, their teachers, administrators, counselors, parents for parent-teacher conferences and IEP meetings. So I feel that I bring a little bit of that, the perspective of everyone in the public school building, everyone in charge, and also of a different variety of students and different challenges that can affect different students.
Ms. Kraus, unmute, please.
Hi there. So I'm motivated by my kids, first and foremost, I think. I have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old who will be starting kindergarten in the fall of 2020. So I have a vested interest in the success of our school district really for years to come. My background is in teaching, and it is also in specifically public education. I was a public school teacher in both Maryland and here in Pennsylvania. I have my undergraduate degree in elementary education and my master's degree in special ed. The majority of my time teaching was as a elementary learning support teacher within the special ed department. So I too feel that I have kind of a unique perspective as a parent and an educator in public schools. I have a decent understanding of how things work. I'm sure as a school board member, I will have lots to learn, as every new school board member does. But I do think I have a strong background in public schools and how they work. And I feel that I can bring that perspective and add something to our board.
Ms. Lyons, you unmute yourself.
I have a couple reasons why I was interested in running for school board. The first is being a mother of 3 kids. So currently I have a 4th grader and a kindergartner, and I'll have another kindergartner next year starting at Kelly. So having a vested interest in what my kids will have in their future as a Lewisburg area student. Another perspective I have is my background is actually working with adults with intellectual disabilities, and now actually the elderly, but in home and community-based settings. And that made me really interested in the special education departments, like Ms. Ross said, looking at what we can expect after high school for our students. And I think a lot of times the students that are part of the special education department have very limited futures of what is set out for them. And that's really not the world we're living in right now. So I'm very interested in the special education department and making sure that we're setting up those students as well for what is possible for them after high school, because I feel a lot of times that's not really looked at, and people have a very specific path that they look at for many of those students, which in this world, that's really not limited anymore like it used to be. I also believe in general of what we're looking at our students after high school, of making sure that they're very informed in all of the choices they can have. As somebody that came out of college with lots of debt, like many kids nowadays, it's important to know that people really know what they're getting into, informing students of what the loans look like, of other career opportunities, trade fields, and just other things that can be in there while students take a break, maybe before making that decision. So those are really my varied interests of being part of the school board.
Ms. Stanton.
Sure, thank you. And thanks for having me. Honestly, listen to everybody and why they're interested in running, or in Mary Browse's case, why she's running again. And I honestly think all of us would make good board members, right? We're citizens. We care about the district. We care about our kids. We care about other people's kids. We care about how all that comes together in our district. For me, I wasn't sure if I was going to run again. I ran the first time for a 4-year term, and I thought, okay, I'll see how that goes, right? I got towards the end of this one when we had to make a decision. My daughter graduates this year, and it felt like, that's a normal time to sort of fall off. But I thought, no, I think I finally get it. Like it takes a while. And I'm not saying that as a warning or anything. It's just it's a fact. A lot of it feels very mysterious at first. You're not, so for me, I really feel like I'm now fully understanding what's happening most of the time. And I'm enjoying the process for the most part. There are difficult decisions that we have to make and discuss. And I think, everybody's aware of that. This has been, case in point, this year has been really challenging, and it's been hard on boards and administrators. And we've all felt that. I serve on the CSIU board, which is just an amazing group covering all of the member districts, and I've really enjoyed that. And I just hope to continue being in service of the community and of our students. So thank you.
Mr. Fry.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I obviously am a senior member of the board at Milton District. I enjoy giving back to the community. I'm heavily involved in other organizations, our Booster Club. I'm on the Y board. I'm on church council. I previously was involved with the Boy Scouts, and I obviously was involved with the Lions Club while they had their carnivals in our area. It's interesting just to see and watch the development of students to go through the steps. I've been on the board long enough to see kids graduate. And it's a special time of year right now for me, approaching graduation, to see the accomplishments that they make. And I hope I'm somewhat of a decision maker and a small part of it, that somewhere along their career that we have made the right decision to, for their paths of the future. I have the energy to do it. I haven't lost my passion for it. I previously have taken courses from PSBA numerous times when they offered them. I just think you need to give back to the community, and hopefully that you help somebody in their future. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. I've been reminded that I failed to give you a time for an opening statement, but I think that you've answered that beautifully in your answers. So thank you for adjusting to my error here. I appreciate that. So let's go on to the second lead question. How will you support your school district in educating and supporting both those students who want to attend college and those who want technical training? Ms. Haynos.
Well, it sounds like I've heard much through Ms. Browse. There's a pretty solid program through Sun Tech for students who would like to experiment with that, pursue things there. And I think that our counseling department does a good job with other possibilities for job readiness and career identification early on. I know that my students, my children, both benefited from some guiding early on. What kinds of things do you like to do? And so I would be, happy to support ongoing efforts and any more new and creative efforts to make sure that every student, no matter what path they are choosing, has a mentor or avenues to explore and pursue those desires.
Ms. Krause?
So I would agree. I actually think that Sun Tech is one of the many gems in our community. And I think continued collaboration with Sun Tech and working with Sun Tech is ultimately what's best for our students. I definitely know that college is not the right next step for every student, and the students who it is not the next right step for whatever that reason may be, need to feel as supported and as kind of nurtured through their decision makings as we do in helping the students who choose college next. And again, I think Sun Tech is really our best resource for that.
Ms. Lyons?
I would definitely echo what's been said about Sun Tech as far as the trade schools. I also think really helping students see what are salary ranges that they can expect coming out of colleges and different career paths of things that they're looking at. I think thinking back to me in high school, those are things that were never really discussed. It was, live your dream, here are some options. But when you really break down how much you can make, how much debt you might have from college, what does that look like? I think also looping back to special education, helping students get hooked up with the Office of Vocational Resources and career assessments, which are available when students with special needs come out of school at the age of 21 or even younger, to help them also get jobs in their local communities if that's wanted.
Ms. Stanton.
Sure, thanks. I think in addition to Sun Tech, we have other resources available to us in our district. We have student clubs. We have the Future Farmers as well as Future Business Leaders. We've got other clubs that sort of help guide kids in areas of interest where they can get a taste for things that they might be interested in the future. We have a great relationship with our community, and I'd like to further that, where we have professionals who will host job shadowing for students. So yes, they're pre-professional, there are technical skills, they're taking time off, and there's going to college. Kids have and they're the armed forces. So kids have lots of options, and I think Lewisburg does a great job sharing those.
Mr. Fry.
Oh, I need to unmute myself. Yes, we're in a situation that is quite unique in our area. We have our own CTE program, and it's there's individuals that, like I said previously, are not always going to go to a 2 or 4 year, but our CTE program is very good. They can establish themselves, and our understanding is that their acceptance rate is a little higher because of the program. Then we have a relationship with Bloomsburg where they can take courses, they can get college courses at a discount rate. So it's really out there for all individuals at all different levels, what they want to go and how they want to, in the future, what they want to achieve. But I can't say enough about our CTE program. It's expanding. We're hoping to get grant money to expand it further, so there's no burden on the taxpayers. But the more you can expand that, the more opportunities are out there for our students. And it's just a great program. And like I said previously, it's a unique program to this area in our school. We don't go out to anybody. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
Over at Sun Tech, we have a program that once kids finish their area study and pass PC now, they can transfer a lot of their credits to Penn College and get like first semester, 2 semesters. They can jump right into their program of study up at the college rather than take the introduction classes. So that saves the parents a lot of money for their education. So we have a lot of students that would never have gone to college if they would stay in their sending districts, but over there they saw that there could be a future in attending a 2-year program. So that is a plus. And a lot of people don't realize that that is available for them by attending Sun Tech. Thank you.
We're now going to begin our audience questions. And before I ask the first one, I'd like to say something to give you to think about here as we go on here. We'll give you 2 minutes for your closing statement rather than the 1 minute, if you choose to use it, if you would like to use that amount of time. So now our first audience question is this. What top priorities or concerns do you have about the state of your school district? And where would you like to see things changed or improved? Ms. Krause.
So one area that I think we can always do better at is actually along the lines of what we just talked about. And that is tapping into some of the community resources that we have in this area. We are surrounded by world-class universities, world-class health systems, and we have established working relationships with most of them. And I think we can expand on a lot of them. There are a lot of members of our community who are experts in a lot of fields. And I think our students would benefit greatly from having more exposure and more engagement with some of the other community resources that we have around us.
Ms. Lyons.
So one of the areas that I do think we've been working on, but I think we could continue, is in our technology. I think that was something that I really saw as a parent when everything happened with COVID, that it seemed like we were really backtracked. And just in this day and age and how much technology is used, it still seems even when I'm working with my kids, when we're coming home, that seems to still be a struggle that I just think shouldn't be for the time that we're in. So I think that's something that really we need to continue to focus on and move forward to see how can we be incorporating as much technology as possible, because that's what the kids are going to be growing up with and pretty much expect it to be using when they leave school.
Ms. Stanton.
So we've had a lot of costs because of COVID. All of the districts are dealing with budget issues. It's not fun, but you have to deal with them. Our HVAC system, like turning that over, actually putting air conditioning into our elementary schools. I mean, this is stuff that we are battling and trying to figure out ways to pay for, so our kids aren't really like just overwhelmed by heat in our elementary schools. So those are issues, along with, you know, how we pay, how we continue, we try to bring kids back out of cyber charter, because those costs are really heavy to districts. That's coming out of our budget, and you know, helping students to focus on what's best for them and understanding equity and inclusion in our districts. Those are all really important moving forward.
Mr. Fry. Mr. Fry, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, we need to continue to work on our broadband. We've done a very good job with what was going on. I think we were ahead of most districts, but we continue to need to work on that. And issues that we have in our district is we went to 2 counties. So the tax equalization is a huge problem for certain residents of Union County. We thought we straightened it out a couple years ago, but there's issues have arose again. And we just continue to fight, like was previously mentioned, to work with, you know, our substitutes. Staffing issues is another concern we have in the future. That's a heavy issue. We need to have concerns about that. And we just need to expand everything for the kids, but obviously the quality of education has to be there. So we have to be very sensitive for budgeting and taxing. That's one of the major issues, I think, in every district. Taxes being raised and staffing, student ratio for staff. I mean, that's where we're at. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
I see an issue with bullying in Lewisburg. From a personal level, I have seen it, and I'd like to see that curved down quite a bit. We spend a lot of money on anti-bullying programs, and it still is going on at a high level. Another thing is, I think we can beef up our science departments. I've heard that's been a common complaint with parents, and I know my son went to Juniat and he said he could have had more rigorous science curriculum. So those are some issues I hope to see we continue to improve on that. And also, like Mary Ann said, that with the more money we spent on cyber and charter schools has really hit the budget very hard. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with Ms. Browse and Ms. Stanton about really looking closely at the cyber charter funding situation to see if that's something that could be altered. It sounds like the payment mechanism for reimbursing cyber charters is well over 20 years old. And so it's not really in keeping with the actual costs to educate, you know, from a cyber point of view, especially for special education students. And on a lighter topic, I agree with everyone about continuing to maximize where we live. The university, all the wonderful places of employment where our students could be learning from early days on what it's like to work at these places, and maximizing access we have to cultural events at Bucknell and elsewhere, Susquehanna, musical events, foreign language, for example. Anyway, those were some ideas. Thank you.
Would any of the candidates from the Lewisburg Area School District like to give a rebuttal?
I don't think there's anything to rebut really, but I would add that another one of those non-sexy costs that we all have to be paying attention to, and I think it's across all of our districts, are custodians. Like we don't have enough custodians, we don't have enough subs, we don't have enough custodians. And so we're really struggling with issues like that as well.
Okay. Moving on to our next question. School directors often find themselves in situations where some members of the public want the board to take one course of action, while others seek an opposite outcome. How will you determine your position on an issue that is controversial among your friends and peers? Will you support the majority decision of the board, even if you voted in opposition? And we will begin that question with Ms. Lyons.
So one thing I do not have a problem with is going against a majority if that is not what I believe, or if that is not what I've gotten from the community of feedback. I'm very usually objective with things of looking at the facts and then determining what I would believe is the best course of action. So I'm not somebody that kind of just goes along because I wouldn't want to be the standout that didn't agree. So that would really be what I would do, is look at the facts, look at what's presented, get feedback from those in the community, those around me, and then make what I feel to be the best decision moving forward.
Ms. Stanton.
Interestingly, I feel similar to Ms. Lyons, but I will say that the last 4 years on the school board have taught me something about myself, and also about the value of having a really trusted superintendent. And I think when you have a superintendent that you really believe in, you can express sort of your opinion and your concerns about a particular situation. And then depending on the situation, you can vote against, or you can vote to support what the administrator is saying she or he believes when they are the experts in the field. So I think it really sort of depends. There's no blanket statement for which way you're going to go, right? You have to vote your conscience, but you also are voting to support your superintendent. And if you have one that you believe in, that's a much easier thing to do.
Mr. Fry.
Yes. Yes, I have in the past sometimes been the minority, the way the votes have come out, but in the end, I will support the decision of the board. I believe you have to be a group of 9 to make the district move forward. Also, if you're approached by constituents or friends and have a particular topic that they have a concern about, I think you need to research it, do your best to find the answer, but please remind them to go through the proper protocol. The board is not there to micromanage at all. They know they need to go through the proper channels to have a decision made. And then you refer back to them or the proper person to get the answer. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
Yes, like Mary Ann said, you trust your superintendent, and I listen to my community when they call me, which I don't get too many calls, but I'm pretty open-minded. I will hear them, but I will get facts from the superintendent, and he or she is the one who gives us the information to make sound decisions. And it may not be, you may go into a meeting with, yeah, I'm going to vote this way. But when you hear the other board members, you may turn around and say, yeah, that makes sense. Or I didn't know that. And a lot of things we have facts that the public doesn't know. And that's the hard part of being on the board. You want to vote your gut, so to speak. Sometimes it's the wrong vote. But you've got to get all the facts and be open-minded and be able to agree to disagree. That is a big thing. We walk away friends. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
Yes, I agree with a lot of things that have been said already. And I've seen in board meetings how this all kind of comes together. There's a lot of trust in the superintendent, as there should be, as well as in the administration. And so when things come before the board, you already should have a lot of trust in the people who are running the schools. And then secondarily, a lot of trust in the colleagues on the board, the group of 9. And so the process then becomes one of listening and hearing everyone out very carefully before formulating opinion. And as a couple of people have said, it's okay to agree to disagree. Thank you.
Ms. Kraus.
Yeah, so I would agree that it is okay to disagree, and it is good to disagree, and that is how we learn, by hearing other people's opinion. And I think really anyone who is on the school board should, and I think does, is there ultimately at the end of the day is we want what is best for the students in our school and the students in our community. So you base your decisions on the facts that are shared with you from the administration and the superintendent. You hear everybody out and you make your vote and you make your decision. But again, I would also agree that when you walk away, it has to ultimately be a board decision, whether it's how you voted or not. You have to support what the ultimate board decision is.
Do any of the Lewisburg candidates want to give a rebuttal?
I do.
Mary?
Um,
Okay, Ms. Browse?
One thing is a lot of our decisions, whether it be what the community would want or not, is run by our policies. You know, it's dictated by our policies. So that's an important fact too. And our policies are on our website. Anybody can get in there and view them. So that's just a point of interest. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question is, please share your thoughts on how the district should proceed with planning for the health and safety of our children for the 2021-22 school year and what those plans should entail. Ms. Stanton.
Well, having been through the year that we have, and I literally mean starting with the original shutdown, that's sort of how I see it. We've been learning as we go. Everybody has. This has never happened before. I will say that I have an incredible amount of faith. And it was sort of hard fought. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was tough getting there for all of us because it was so new. But I feel really good about the processes we have in place. I think it's gone really well. And I feel that we are, and our administrators and our superintendent and our teachers are putting our kids first and want what's best for them, both from an educational, a mental health standpoint. And I know that we'll make decisions letting that guide us.
Mr. Fry.
Yes, I mean, you have to follow CDC guidelines. That's the priority. And then everything is handed down from the Department of Ed, from our governor. Our administration did a tremendous job in the past year following that, implementing everything that was put before them. It was a lot of difficult times, but they moved ahead. And then to continue the virtual, I mean, I think they all came together and they're looking to the future. And basically, we are going to do what we are told is with the guidelines. I mean, it's that simple. You can't hardly venture out from that. Our administrators do a tremendous job. At the end of the day, the students are the most important element here, and their safety is where we're at. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
I have to agree with everything Mary Ann said. I think our administration and our superintendent has done an excellent job in keeping the safety of our students and staff at best interest. And I know since we have 2 school districts in Union County, Dr. Polinchak has conferred with Dan Michael. They've been on the same page, so to speak. But I think Lewisburg has done a great job keeping the students in school, and we're getting more back. I hope that continues. But like you say, we have guidelines from CDC we've got to follow. So it's really out of our hands in some respect. So to follow the guidelines is what's going to dictate what we do in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
I think the district did an amazing job of managing the crisis. And of course, there were guidelines. But as I sat in on school board meetings, I really was just so impressed with how everyone just really put their heads down and got through it all. And to be able to say that our students were in person or had the option of being in person 70 to 80% of the school year thus far, is really quite an amazing thing. I think that maybe for the next school year, as long as we're meeting the CDC guidelines and whatnot, we can begin to focus more on mental and physical well-being. If children haven't been getting the physical exercise they need or needs a little bit of a mental health check-in, I'm hoping that we can get to that next year. Thank you.
Ms. Kraus.
So I would really echo everything that's been said. I think, the plan is to follow the CDC guidelines and what the Department of Ed from the state puts out that schools need to be doing. I think that is a plan. That is a process, and saying that's what we'll do, I think, is what parents need to hear and want to hear, that we do have a plan and it will be to follow what the CDC recommends. I also too think that trying to look forward and recognizing that we know our students are going to need some extra supports next year and probably for a few years to come, and starting to look ahead on how we can support them more with their mental health, I think is an important part of looking into next year and the years to come.
Are there any rebuttals? Does anybody from the Lewisburg district want to do a rebuttal? If not, we'll move on to our next question.
Did Jamie answer?
I didn't, but I really don't have
I'm
anything
sorry.
extra. I really
Okay,
don't
I'm
have anything extra to say. I just agree with everybody else. I don't think that we can really complain with how much our students were in school this year and what was done to be able to keep the students in person as much as they were. And I think continuing to follow on that path is just going to be the best results.
All right, we will now move on to our next question. How can the school board help secure our schools from potential gun violence? Mr. Fry, you begin.
Well, school resource officers definitely help. In Milton, we had one and we just hired a second one. They can help in some respects, but they can't cure everything. That's for sure. We do take measures as far as, cameras and locks and everything else. I mean, we're considering doing vestibules, but the cost at the present time is a little more than we can absorb in the budget. We just do every safeguard we consider. The resource officers try and track down any lead they have for possible situations that might arise. But again, vestibules are definitely a consideration, but again, the cost of them right now is not in our budget. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
I feel Lewisburg has done a very good job with that, with our SRO officers. And the way we have people entering each building, there's doors they have to go through to get back into anywhere where the students are. That can always continue. I know we update our cameras quite a bit, which is good. And we added more cameras around the district. So I think anything that we can do and any input from the community, I think is important too, and tapping into our local regional police force for ideas, which we do. We're pretty well on hand when things do go wrong as far as parents coming in from family disputes or whatnot. So are you ever totally safe? No, but you just do the best you can. And I think Lewisburg has done an excellent job on that. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
I agree with what's been said. I think that the board could be open to other ideas that the administration and the superintendent might bring forth. And it would be helpful to always have an open mind about what other things could be done, whether it be, I don't know if safe to say is related here, if it's germane. That's the students know a lot. Students have eyes everywhere in the schools and outside of schools. And I think collaborating with them might be a good way to work.
Ms. Kraus.
So I agree that kind of the physical structure of schools and how people enter and leave the building is very important. Safe to say is very important within the state. And I know it's something at the state level that is thought to be a strong and effective program. And I believe it is. I also do think there's a lot of research out there about schools having threat assessment programs and threat assessment teams. These are trained teachers, and I think Lewisburg has something called SAP, which is along these same lines, where again, we're also looking at the mental health of our students. And so if there is someone who is struggling, if there is someone who is talking about harming themselves or others, we're able to intervene with counselors and supports instead of just going to law enforcement. And I think that is something that we can always strengthen. And again, moving forward after COVID, I think it would be wise to do so.
Ms. Lyons.
I agree with Ms. Kraus. I think that looking at the mental health of students and looking at indicator signs and ways that we can get in earlier with students that might have potential or be struggling with issues. I think that the way that the buildings are set up is great. And definitely as a parent makes me feel safe. But I think as far as for gun violence, it's something that makes us feel safe that maybe doesn't have the effect we really think, considering that most school shooters are students. So they would already be able to get through those places. They wouldn't be ringing the doorbell and coming in through that back door. So I think the mental health and really the indicator signs are a pivotal thing to focus on.
Ms. Stanton.
Safe to Say has been a real tool for Pennsylvanians and for districts. I think what we found the most interesting from the first year of Safe to Say was that the majority of the reports were for concerns about self-harm. And they thought there were going to be more concerns about gun violence or violence towards others, but really the majority of it was about self-harm. So I do think that that avenue is still a pathway for people to talk about their concerns about kids that they maybe heard something, but that we need to be paying attention, really close attention. I mean, our teachers work really hard to make sure that there's no student that they don't know, right? That the administrators make a real point of that. We know something about every student, and if we don't know something, we make sure we find out, right? We identify those kids and we figure out what's going on with them. So we're fortunate to have these small districts where those things happen more often than in larger districts.
Do we have any rebuttals? If not, we'll move on to our next question. And this topic has already been brought up, but there's a question from the audience about it. COVID-19 has had considerable social and academic impact on our students. How do you see your district adjusting to problems caused by pandemic-related interrupted instruction? And we begin with Ms. Browse.
Well, I like every other district, we all are in the same boat. It's like Mary Ann said earlier, it's all new to us. We continue to try to do the best for our children with the resources that we have. We've had programs that we tapped into to further their education in a positive way. Obviously, the best way is in school, but you know, parents have the fear of COVID. But I'm hoping that calms down, which if everybody gets vaccinated, I see that happening and things will start opening up. But as it was this past year, we just, you know, offered what we could for the kids and gave them, you know, the hybrid if they wanted to have in-house schooling or in the internet. It's been a very difficult year, but I think we did a very good job with what we had to work with and with the recommendations. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
I do think that the next year, I mean, we can forgive ourselves if we spend the next year kind of recalibrating. there will likely have been some learning loss. And I think that the schools know and the teachers know that they'll need the time to make those assessments of students and see where gaps need to be filled. Socially, obviously, those who are ready to come back in person, I think the coming back in person will hopefully help get people back into a socially stimulating environment and taking advantage of all the extracurricular activities that our district has to offer. And the mental health piece that people have alluded to. I think if we're just sort of ready and prepared to listen to the students, find out what their needs are academically and emotionally, it can be a very productive year.
Ms. Kraus.
So I really think this is an area where we can use our teachers. We are blessed in this district with having amazing teachers who are super dedicated to the students they serve. And I think that we need to listen to them. I think we need to hear their suggestions. I think when they speak up and say, this is a problem and this is how I think we can do it better, we need to give them the option to try something new, and not reply with a that's not what we've done before response. I think now more than ever, we need to listen to our teachers. They know our students best, and we need to find a way to support whatever endeavors they want to try, even if it's something we haven't done before.
Ms. Lyons.
I think it's really important for teachers to continue communicating with parents. I think that knowing what's going on where children may have deficits that are related to time missed in school or time with the pandemic. I know as a parent, I'm seeing where some of my kids may be struggling with things that I hadn't expected them to struggle with just because of the lost time, even from last year, from the months that they weren't there during pivotal ages, having younger students that them not learning letters or not learning to read in the way they would have. So I think really increasing that communication with parents. I think there's a lot of parents that are just need some focus on where to work on. I know for me, I know I'm not a teacher. Teachers are the experts in that. So getting some focus from teachers on these are the areas and how I can work with my kids is really helpful. And I think that would be helpful to a lot of parents in the district.
Ms. Stanton.
I think one thing that I learned in my 10 years of teaching that applies here is that kids' brains are amazing. They learn really quickly. I think we won't know the impact of this for several years, but that all of our kids are in the same boat. Everybody has had a challenging year of learning. Our kids that are trying to go to college, I mean, that whole process was crazy. The kids who maybe were on the cusp of learning to read, or were starting with trigonometry, whatever it was they were doing, those things were stopped. And I think that we have to give them the time and also trust our teachers and our students to make up that difference.
Mr. Fry.
Yeah, with this, we're in uncharted territory because obviously this has never happened in the past. So there's no substitute for one-on-one, and to get the kids back. I mean, that's the goal of everybody, to have them interact with their friends, to be in the environment of an educational, and just the brick and mortar, just having them there is important. Obviously, all the districts have counselors available for future reference, for needs of them, for their mental health. I mean, and nothing's going to be corrected overnight, but I think there's going to be a lot of research go into this. And you're going to find out down the road that there's just no substitute for one-on-one and interaction with their friends. Thank you.
Do we have any rebuttals?
We just wanted to add again that assessment's going to be crucial. We're just going to be feeling our way for a while, and everybody's going to need to be patient and try to be helpful in that process. Parents, teachers, administrators, everybody.
Okay, we'll move on to our next question. And you're bringing up some issues as we go along here that are also on the audience's mind. And so you're going to hear that reflected in those thoughts reflected in these questions. How can schools be proactive, drawing on the recent experience with e-learning so they are better prepared if remote learning or a hybrid model is needed again? And we will begin with Ms. Hanos.
Well, it's my understanding that this year, in terms of having to switch to remote learning, that went pretty well. It sounds like everyone was happy with that. The e-school, on the other hand, apparently there were some glitches, but I believe this is being addressed and that the district is already looking for another provider. So I have a lot of faith in the district and the administration. If parents aren't happy with what's going on with the e-school or with the delivery of technology, from what I've seen, the district is reactive and takes steps to make things more efficient and more beneficial for the student.
Ms. Kraus.
So I think the district needs to take a look at the devices that it's putting in the hands of our students. We are a one-to-one district, and that is amazing. But if the device your student comes home with doesn't work with the program they're supposed to be using to access their education, then that device is no good. So I think we need to make sure all the devices that we're putting in our students' hands work with the programs that we're using when we go remote. I am an e-school parent. My sons started the year in the e-school. One is finishing an e-school, one has returned to in-learning. And the accelerated ed program is not great. And I think the district has learned from that. I think it took a while, but the district has listened to parents. And my understanding is that they are now looking at a different curriculum than the accelerated ed to use for people who may choose the e-school option again next year.
Ms. Lyons.
I agree with the devices. I think really looking at that technology, I think as a parent, it's very frustrating in obviously a situation everybody's in where we've never been in this before, but to try to do things with technology that doesn't work correctly. I also think when we're looking ahead, being proactive at things, looking how the decisions being made are affecting other things, such as purchasing of applications to do virtual schooling that don't work on the devices. Like specifically, I know the kindergarten devices do not support the applications that were purchased. So that's frustrating from a fiscal standpoint of that money being put in. I think also really working to support the teachers to feel comfortable with hybrid and virtual. I've learned, at least my students, kids are into technology. They're going to pick up how to do Zoom, how to do these apps probably quicker than the adults, than the parents and the teachers. So really supporting the teachers to feel comfortable on that virtual platform, I think is important, and maybe offering support if the parents need help with that as well.
Ms. Stanton.
So good news. You're completely right about the devices, and our new technology director is addressing that right now. We're actually trying something new in one of the schools, and we're talking about replicating that. So in process, that's awesome. E-school. My daughter did e-school. I never expected her to thrive the way that she is with e-school, but I do understand the issues that happen, particularly I think at the middle school level. There were some real challenges there, but I think in a lot of spaces as well. The IU is actually working to help find better solutions. We had a steep learning curve, you guys. We were not ready, and that will not happen again. I mean, that won't happen again. We are already so much further ahead of where we were when things shut down, or even when the year started. So I feel much better about our starting point than I did at this time last year.
Mr. Fry.
Yes, thank you. I think Milton was ahead of most districts, to be honest with everybody. We took a hold of this, and our technology partner really stepped up. The issue we had was broadband, so we need to work on the broadband. We are definitely one-on-one. We're trying to replace quite a bit of equipment. It was purchased as of last summer, and as of today, it has not been received. So getting the product is an issue, but looking down the road, there's no substitute for getting the kids back in there. But if they so desire to stay at home, we're going to make every effort to give them the education they need. The teachers will work with them, they'll follow up, and the administrators will support it. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
Yes, I'll agree with everybody. Devices was a problem. I mean, it's like trying to pound a nail in with a screwdriver. You gotta have the right tools with the right applications. One thing I'd kind of like to see in our district, if we're in this situation again, is live streaming. If the teachers and some kids are back in building in bricks and mortar, that they can be right there in the classroom with the teacher and their classmates. I have a son-in-law that teaches in Line Mountain. That's what they did this year, and that seemed to be very effective. So that might be something we could take a look at too. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Do we have any rebuttals? If not, we'll move on to our next question. How can you ensure your district's curriculum addresses the needs of all students, including those who may be behind, as well as those that may be ahead? Ms. Kraus.
So this is where I think we really need to rely on educational research, and what research tells us is rigorous and relevant curriculum for the different grade levels. We need to make sure that the curriculum we are purchasing meets those expectations. And if there's students who are not seeing success within that curriculum, then we need to support them with whatever type of interventions they might need.
Ms. Lyons.
I really can't disagree with Ms. Kraus. I think that's where you would rely on the experts in the field to see what is the research saying, what curriculum is working. You will always have outliers that are not going to work within that curriculum, and that is where you have the extra supports in place for those students to get them the help they need so that we can help all students be successful.
Ms. Stanton.
We're in the process right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, of onboarding a new math curriculum that our math teachers, as well as Kathy Moser, our assistant superintendent, are really excited about. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're there to support our teachers and our administrators. So me telling them what the best thing to do is really not in my best interest or theirs, but really trusting them to be the experts in their fields and asking the right questions. We're allowed to do that, right? So that's what we do.
Mr. Fry.
Well, obviously we have to trust our administrators and our counselors and everything, and go back on the testing results and everything from the Department of Ed. But you know, with the multi-tier system of support, it addresses all students' needs. So that's where we're at on that. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
I agree with everything that's been said, but I think sometimes we need to check what's really going on with a student. I'm talking about the ones who are falling behind. What are they coming to school with? Excess baggage? What's going on at home? And I think we need to dive into those things to give them a better learning environment once they get into the school surroundings. Of course, we have our tests that we take annually. Those dictate where we need to help students, their weaknesses, their strengths. But there's a lot of things kids going through these days, you know, peer pressure, like I said, the bullying. If there's a bad atmosphere at school, they're not going to learn. They're not going to be learning it to their capacity. So I think you have to really check into the mental health to some of these. Mental health seems to be a big area of concern, especially with the COVID, coming off the COVID. Thank you.
Ms. Haynos.
I like Ms. Krause's terms relevant and rigorous. And maybe right now I'd like to focus a little bit more on relevant. I think our district provides a rigorous curriculum. I'm fairly confident that it does. Relevant can take on so many different meanings. And this is where we can trust our teachers and aides to really know our students and the students who are falling behind. What is relevant to that student? And maybe some different cultural components can be brought into that thinking. particularly for EL students. So we're talking about support, but really it's enrichment. Enrichment sometimes is a term that's used for the most accelerated students. I don't know. I think there can be all kinds of enrichment. Enrichment can come through support, and for students who are technically not where they should be, but they probably have strengths in other areas that people may not be aware of.
Do we have any rebuttals?
I was just going to add, I actually think this is a great reason that Dr. Polinchak has introduced an education subcommittee of the board. I think this in an education subcommittee of a school district is where people can really learn a lot and then share their knowledge with the board. And I think it's fantastic she did that.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. News coverage of local Black Lives Matter demonstrations last year often included descriptions of discriminatory treatment in schools by both students and staff. Do you see a need to address this and other polarizing issues in policy, curriculum, and programs, and to involve minority groups in those decisions? We will begin with Ms. Lyons.
I think that it is always important to address any issues that deal with inclusion and diversity. So if we're talking specifically about Black Lives Matter, I think that if we have people in the community that are feeling that they're unheard, including parents, including students, that is something that we should address and we should include in our policy, as I think policies at public schools should be inclusive, they should be diverse, they should include those things. I also believe, in my experience in supporting people with disabilities, that you're only ever really going to be able to address that if you're getting the opinions and the perspectives of those people that are devalued. If you don't walk in those shoes, if you don't live that role, you're not going to be able to really know what that person experiences. And I think that that is important, to get those experiences and to get those voices and to have those voices be heard, not just ask the opinion and then pass it on, but to have those people speak their stories. I think that that is very important.
Ms. Stanton.
I'm the board member that sits on the newly set up DEI committee. And so we're just beginning to really assess where we need to go, which we have a lot of work to do, as evidenced just by our slate of candidates, right? There's no one of color here. We don't have a lot of diversity going on here. I think it's important to get those voices to the table, but it's also important that we don't ask them to perform their trauma for us, that we do the work and really educate ourselves on what needs to be happening. I think there need to be partnerships with area businesses and higher institutions of higher learning as far as recruiting, so that students of color can see adults of color in their schools, in leadership positions as teachers. You know, I think there's so much that can be done, an incredible amount of potential. And I'm excited about really digging in on that with the community.
Mr. Fry.
Yes, our district is quite diverse, and I think that everybody deserves equal opportunity for an opinion. And once you get their opinion or their input, you need to go with it. And if we have a situation, we need to correct it. But they all deserve an opinion, and they all are equal in our eyes. And we just need to listen to them and be sensitive to their needs and follow through with it. And don't just listen to them and move on, but try and correct the situation so everybody can work in a community together. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
Oh, definitely. You have to look into it. You have to listen to them, be an active listener, and be open-minded. And are we always going to agree? No, we're not. But like Mary Ann said, she's on that committee. We are starting to really get into finding a way to handle all the diversity. We are a very diverse district anymore, whereas 10 years we weren't that diverse. diverse, excuse me. So, you know, I think we are considering all the needs of our students. Are they all met? No, we have a lot of work to do, but I think we will get there eventually. It's not going to happen overnight, but through time and community input and education of both administration, board members, everybody, it's going to take a team. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
I can't disagree with anything that's been said. I think that this newly formed committee is a good first step. And I would hope that students, possibly parents, could come to meetings and contribute to the discussion there. And then going back to the word relevant, what's relevant now? And our schools should really be at the vanguard of how our society is changing, responding. And again, we can bring in people from the community who may want to share their story. We could also collaborate as school districts too, potentially with Milton. We could encourage the formation of student groups. And I think there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of avenues open to us.
Ms. Kraus.
I would echo that. I think the recent creation of the DEI committee at a district level is a great first step. I too believe that everyone has a right to share their story. I also really believe that representation matters. And I think something that we can do right now as a district is make sure that every child sees themselves represented in some way in their building. We're not going to be able to fix the fact that we do not have a diverse staff quickly, but we are able to get books that have children from various backgrounds, to have posters where students can see themselves represented. Their parents, the elementary PSA has recently purchased some books for the Kelly and Lintown libraries that do just this. And those are things that we can start doing right now while this new form committee takes the time to, get going in the proper manner. But we can do things now.
Do we have any rebuttals?
I want to say, because I don't think that I actually completely answered the question, which was about listening to students if they're sharing their experiences with us. And I think absolutely we have to do that. We have to hear them, and we have to figure out what's going on and what's at the base of what they're telling us.
Okay. Our next question is, and some of you talked about budgets earlier. School district budgets are challenged by increasing payments to private cyber schools. Should your district work to improve your own cyber schools? And if so, what steps would you take to do so? And we will begin with Ms. Stanton.
So again, I'm going to go back to our teachers and that the research tells us that in-person learning is the best learning, and that is what our teachers are best at. So our investment in eSchool, it will be the one that the product that we all agree on with the IU to utilize. And will involve Lewisburg teachers when and as needed. So I think that, the cyber charter issue is a completely different thing. As far as that goes, I want our kids back in our own district. I want the money that goes with them that is actually to be spent on bricks and mortar work and on activities, and that is not going to those things for cyber charter. We don't know where they're going. They don't actually have to say. That's important that we keep that money in our district for our kids, for all of our kids. And that we address the kids' needs who feel like they don't have the best education in the bricks and mortar.
Mr. Fry.
Yeah, charters cyber is a huge issue. It's a major impact on the budget. As was previously said, the money follows the student. So it's in the best interest of the district to get the student back, but I don't think there's any charter school out there that can provide an education that a brick and mortar school can do. They don't have the interaction. They don't have anything else. They don't have the outside activities. There's no place that student should be except in the brick and mortar. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm strong for that. The budget, just the budget, the way it goes is ridiculous. And as previously said, you don't know where the money goes. And sometimes if you get into special needs, it can double or triple. And there again, the servicers are not in the best interest of the child. And that's what we're here for. What's best for the child? Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
Yes, we spend tons of money on charter and cyber schools. How to improve our present e-school? I have to defer that to Dr. Pollenchak. She's the expert. She's the one that we're paying the money to get the best applications, best programs for our students. And I trust her fully to do that. And we are to act on her recommendations to the board. I am not an educator per se. A lot of you have your teaching degrees. I do not. I took the business course in high school, but I act on common sense, and I trust my board members with their interjections when we discuss something like this. But there are applications out there that I trust Jen, Dr. Pollenchak would check into and make the best recommendation to us to make a sound decision what's best for our students. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
Yes, it sounds as though there's a new e-school vendor that is being looked at. And so that's to be applauded. And maybe this has already happened. I think a survey or a check-in with students who did e-school this year and with their parents to have a greater understanding of what was weak, what needs to be better, and addressing those needs directly will result in a stronger e-school program with our district. And that is, as everyone's ultimately said, is the goal. Let's keep our kids here. This is a wonderful, not cyber schooling, with money going to a marketing company in Ohio or whatever it is. I mean, our tax dollars are here to support and provide for our students. And that's a focus that we should maintain and keep.
Ms. Kraus.
So, I mean, I would agree. I think really, I personally feel, and I know people who this was the case, that if the district had provided a stronger e-school program, they would not have chosen the cyber charter schools that they chose. And so does the funding formula that is currently being used for cyber charter schools need reworked? 100%, absolutely. But I think we also as a district need to make sure the programs that we are providing are the strongest they can be. I also think when we are hearing from parents and our teachers who in the elementary level were helping to implement it, and students, that what we are being offered is not that great, I think we need to listen to them. And even if a program is started, if we're getting that feedback that it's not working, we need to stop and take a really hard look, because I don't think we would be in as bad of a situation as we are in if we had a stronger program to start.
Ms. Lyons.
I don't disagree with what's being said. There's a lot in this topic that we have very little control on because of the formulary, because of the e-school being provided through the IU. But I do think really checking in with parents that are utilizing cyber schooling. Obviously, in this past year, it became more of an issue because it became a greater population of students using the cyber school, but we don't know for the couple years to come. I mean, COVID is not gone, and how people are going to feel. We're hoping that people will be back in greater numbers, but I think checking in with those charter schools on what do they feel they're getting from that cyber school that they are not getting. So this district can see what can we supplement, what can we do to at least maybe make the switch to the district cyber school compared to the outside charter school.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to forego a rebuttal here for this one in the interest of time and move on to the your closing statements. And as I had said at the beginning, we will give you 2 minutes for your closing statements. And we're ready to go. So here we go. And thank you for, you've been here quite a while taking these questions. So thank you. We will begin our closing statements with Mr. Fry.
I appreciate you extending the offer to have me here tonight. I would definitely like to represent Region 3 in our Milton district. Like I said previously, I still have the desire to do it. It's exciting. I have the energy to do it. There's difficult decisions to be made. We've made them in the past. We look forward to making them in the future. I always want to represent our constituents. I listen to every one of them, no matter what region they're in. And I, again, trying to find the correct answer and return to them with the proper answer. I support our administration 100%. They're doing a fantastic job. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for offering it to me. Thank you.
Ms. Browse.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters tonight for having this candidate tonight. It's always a very education I get from having to view the other candidates and speak with them a little bit. I look forward to serving Lewisburg District for hopefully another 4 years. I've enjoyed my terms on the board. It's been very interesting and very, very worthwhile. I'm student oriented. I love kids. I love being with them. And I like to do what is best for them and for their welfare and see that when they graduate from high school, that they are productive. It's so worthwhile to see kids now, like Eric Wetzel. My one son played baseball with him. And it's so rewarding to see achievements like that. And so it's been very educational, and I'm a team player. I will speak my mind, but I'm able to agree to disagree. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes.
Thank you so much to the League and to everyone for being here tonight. As I've stated a little bit earlier, I'm an advocate for all students and for education that meets the needs of students from culturally and linguistically different backgrounds. I think this is in keeping with the strategic goal of the district, which is seeking to embrace greater cultural awareness and active citizenship. I admire the collaborative spirit I've seen among the current board members and the administration, and I've had a lot of confidence in them as they've led us through this pandemic. And I'm very grateful for all the hard work. There's a lot of great work to do going forward, as we've just touched on tonight. And I think that if we work collectively and collaboratively, we can recover and ensure the academic, emotional, and physical well-being of our students. I'm eager to be a part of that process. Thank you.
Ms. Kraus.
I too just wanted to share my thanks with the League of Women Voters of the Lewisburg area for having us tonight. Right now is not an easy time to get your name and face out there and chit chat with people about what your thoughts are. So this is a huge opportunity, and I greatly appreciate being asked to be involved. I too just look forward to hopefully serving our community as a school board director. I feel strongly that my background as a parent and as a public school educator gives me a unique perspective that I can bring to the board, and I look forward to doing so.
Ms. Lyons.
I am also very grateful to have this opportunity to be a part of this tonight and to hear everybody's perspectives on everything. I do think that my background, though I don't have an education background, does help with decision-making that would happen with the school board. I have 10 years experience working in home and community-based services, which means I'm very used to state changes in regulations and policies and limited budgets and funding and the rules about the way that funding can be used and making the tough choices with that. I think also my experience of starting as a direct support worker and working up through administration has also shown me the differences between the on the ground problems that, say, teachers would have being the frontline workers compared to maybe the decisions making in administration. And that's something that I've always tried to keep in the front of my mind when I was making decisions as supervisors and making those tough decisions of how is this affecting those that are going every day and being face to face with the people that they're supporting. This leads into, as I said earlier, I have a deep passion for the special education departments and just supporting those with varying needs. And I think, again, being a mom of soon to be 3 Lewisburg students that are relatively young, I think seeing where these decisions are being made and kind of paving the way for the future of my own kids, let alone other children in the district, would really help me if I were to become a school board member.
Ms. Stanton.
Well, honestly, what a great group of people. Thanks so much for inviting us. And it's been great to hear from everybody. I think Lewisburg and Milton are fortunate to have candidates that care so much. And I think we'll be lucky no matter how the election turns out. It's a lot of people who care. Again, I think for me, like, I finally feel like I figured this thing out. And I don't mean like the answers, right? More like how to do this. I care a great deal about Lewisburg and about education and about our district. I don't have little kids anymore. I have big kids, one who's in his 3rd year out of college. He learned a lot that prepared him for college at Lewisburg and even more in college. And he's now successfully launched. And I think that has a lot to do with the foundation that he got here. My daughter is about to successfully launch as well. And I am so grateful for all the people that had a part in that. And it really was so much about caring about her and about my son as individuals. And I think that that's one thing that Lewisburg does really well. We don't always get it right, but I honestly feel like we get it right a lot. And I'm really grateful to be part of that process. I'm grateful to represent this community and to do my best in doing so. And I hope I get to do it for another 4 years. Thanks again.
Well, and thank you to the candidates for participating in this event this evening. The League and the voters of Union County appreciate your willingness to present yourselves to us at this event. And to our audience, we want to say thank you too, because we know you had other choices of things that you could have done tonight. And you came to this event because you wanted to know more about the candidates that you'll be voting for in the May election. So our league thanks you, the audience, for attending. We do want to make sure that all of our voters understand that there are going to be 4 ballot questions on the May 18th ballot. The ballot questions propose 3 separate amendments to the Constitution of Pennsylvania, and 1 question is about a statewide referendum. The amendment questions are based on a joint resolution of the General Assembly of Pennsylvania. If 1 or more of the amendment questions is approved by a majority of the people voting on it, each amendment will be approved, will become law. In Pennsylvania, because we have a closed primary election, you can only vote for the candidates in the same political party that you named in your voter registration. However, all voters can vote on ballot questions during this primary election. For more information about the ballot questions, please refer to our League's Voters Guide, or you can go to vote411.org for more information. Well, now, it's really up to all of us, the voters of Union County, to go out and vote on Tuesday, May 18th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you enjoyed this event and have an interest in joining our league, please contact through our Facebook page, League of Women Voters, Lewisburg Area, or on our website, lwvlewisburgarea.org. Good night and have a great evening.